Yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm an expert in clinical neuropsychology by any means. I guess the general things that come to mind for me with this question is like why, like if it's research, why are we doing this research? But then more broadly, like is this the appropriate testing or assessment to be doing? How does the person or the community stand to benefit? And so in this case, like relationality strikes me as being important. As I mentioned, there's like many scars, both recent and historical, for Indigenous people from researchers, universities, the medical system, psychology. And so like if you're going to be running neuropsychological tests, that's normally quite an involved like process, and so it could bring up some of that trauma and some of those scars, and so making sure that you have a relationship with that person or that community before you do that testing. And then also I think Indigenous data sovereignty can come into play here as well, and so that's this idea or this movement about when people collect data about Indigenous people, culture, our land, whatever, who owns that data, and well, it should be that Indigenous people own that data. So how do we access it? How does it benefit us? How do we get to determine who uses it and things like that? And so there's been a lot of cases in the past of people taking Indigenous DNA and genomics and things like that and running away with them, and we don't have control of those anymore. So even like in a neuropsychology context, how do you build and maintain trust, and how do you ensure Indigenous data sovereignty over the testing or the assessment that you're collecting?
Firstly, what is your intent? What is your intent, your purpose of doing this? Is it just for you to go through a process to say you tick a box?
Right.
Because as I said, when you're playing with people's lives, this is, you might do something that person will never contribute to anybody else's research again. They won't engage. But conversely, that could be part of them standing up for themselves, having confidence, and advocating for themselves or other people. So, what is your intent? And and ethics is really important. So the ethics of why you're doing something and how you're doing it, and what are the outcomes this research will trigger or lever. Okay. And the other thing I found is reporting back to the cohort of people that you've done that, what your findings have been, and validating that and letting them know, because then you start off a chain of action within themselves as well. Oh, this is what, this researcher has found. So therefore, let's just say, how many spoons of sugar do you have a day or whatever? Then if you've got a Fanta and it's got 9 teaspoons of sugar in a cup, well, then they start to understand, hey, like 9 teaspoons in that Fanta multiplied by 3 of them is going to be 27 teaspoons of sugar I'm consuming a day, and I'm wondering why I'm getting diabetes and renal failure.
Yeah.
So you are, by your questions, you are triggering people to open their mind and new learnings as well, for them to think about things, So, I think reporting back, knowing the cohort of people, their social mores, and cultural requirements is really important. And understanding that Indigenous people, because I used to run a grants program too, and one of them was an Indigenous one, and previous people who managed that program could never get reports back from Indigenous people. They were slow or they were inadequate. So what I did, is my understanding is people from Indigenous communities, if they put pen to paper, it's very threatening and challenging for them. If they get a letter in the mailbox that's got a window on them, they're scared. They don't like writing. A lot of this is just general. This is just that they don't like writing. So if you change how you are. So I used to have my questions in front of me. Then I'd interview people and ask them, and they'd tell me they're okay with that. So so you may find that you just have to change your way of doing. You may not be able to send out a hard copy questionnaire and also electronic. The other thing is a lot of people are confused and challenged by stuff on the internet, or having to sit down at a laptop and type it in. It's amazing how many people are scared of using laptops and computers to do.
Yeah, and of course there's generational issues there. There's probably some young Indigenous psychology students in the class going, I can use my iPad just fine, thanks. But Yvonne and I are coming from a different generation. It's true in every culture, but it's more true in some cultures, right? Like, so just even how many people have a personal computer in their home? How good is the internet? And do they want to spend their time answering questionnaires on the internet? Those are things that are not the same for everyone. And so if you don't want to end up with only young, snappy people under the age of 25 or 30, you have to think about that.
Yes. Yeah. Also, in outlying Aboriginal communities, more so the lack of access to medical support, a lot of children get middle ear infections.
Right.
Those middle ear infections, and that particularly people like my age, 20 years younger, a hearing loss. We have a certain amount of hearing loss. And, for example, my oldest brother, he goes into hospital. The doctors talk to him at the bedside, and he, yes, yes, yes. I say, what did they have to say? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He said yes to everything. And so confirm when people are making a response, confirm that they actually get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can't really hear properly. Sight also, if you are doing things on a hard copy or having to write or something like that, or if you're writing things on a board, there in the background there, So didactic stuff is not good for people in Indigenous populations. It's interactive, experiential, getting people involved in activities that you can find out what's happening. As I said, action research is really good. And as I said before, if you have a group, don't break the circle, don't go across in front of people, go behind. Make sure that you set your environment before you do it, where the chair spacing is. And the other thing is a lot of, and I'm used to it because I go to lots of meetings with Indigenous people, is they will keep their phones with them because they've got a sick mum at home or a sick child or something or other, and they want to make sure that they have the phone there so that they know they're connected, right? Because I spoke about connectedness and family responsibilities. So if someone comes and has the phone, they might have to step out, and we don't make a judgment on that. We just say, we'll just stop for a little bit and, wait till such and such comes back in, or, whatever. And sometimes if there's children there or an elderly person they've got to bring along that they're looking after, and so if the children are crying or something or other, don't look down on that. Just take it, and as part of like your meeting in your family lounge and the children are playing up and just roll with it, right? And this is what's so good with having an independent person watching what's happening outside of your group. Forgotten what that's called, but it's a particular research way of being where you have
is it observational research?
Yeah. So that way. I just
want to jump in there and say, again, think of how that's broadening the perspective students of, so instead of thinking a meeting is when we all put our family to the side, and we all just focus on tasks for us talking as quickly as possible for a short time till we get back to our emails. A meeting is something different, which is integrated with family life and is open to family life, and family life is continuing at the same time as we're talking work. So that's a different way. It is more interconnected instead of siloed.
Also, if you're having a focus group or a yarning circle, is get the group to develop their rules, their group rules.
Yeah.
So that you're not telling them you can't do this, you can't do that. Say, well, what are some rules so that we can get the best outcomes in this time frame that we want? So then they'll say, if someone's speaking, we'll let them speak, and and wait till their turn. Or if we're not, one person can't take over the show, we all have to be able to speak, things like that, and the other thing that's very important in setting the scene is if there's something that's impacting on the comfortableness of the people there, you need to acknowledge it. If you can't fix it, you acknowledge it and say, look, I know it's really cold in here, and there's no heaters. What can we do about that? They might say, we'll sit closer together, or we'll close the windows, or I don't know. They'll come up with it and they'll bear it because you've acknowledged it. But if you don't acknowledge it, they're not going to listen to any of the things that you're saying, because they're going to try and body language, they're going to try and show you that you need to do something about this cold stuff. So they might go like this, or stuff like that. So if you acknowledge it, you hit the nail on the head, and they will compromise and work with it with you, or if it's hot in here or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've got to do those sort of things, and it's all that stuff will get us the best outcome. The other thing is we have our questions that we're wanting to ask, and yes, we're going to, go back and put numbers beside it. But it's amazing the amount of times that when I'm having those talks with people, stuff comes out of the blue that I would never have thought of.
Yes.
And it's really good to note those, whether it's going to be part of your research or inform you the context. You can write, in the intro that, this is a such and such and such, but sometimes it's important to note those things that aren't even part of your study.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Very important things come up. And what's the good thing about it is it also gives you, if you've got a little notepad you stick in your desk, it also gives you further follow-up for further research.
Yeah.
You might be talking about meals or something, and then they might say, but a lot of us have problems with swallowing, or we can't get to the dentist, and some of us haven't got teeth, or we've got, few teeth, and things like that. And you go, right, so write out in your little book, that this is probably a further research topic that I can look around for when there's grants around,
Yeah.